I'm now joined by Ofir Pasternak from Personally. How are you doing today?
Great, how are you?
Good, we're at the end of the show, for the first day anyway, halfway through, so I'm surprisingly energetic considering. You guys have been downstairs on the floor. What's it been like down there?
Crazy, a lot of audience, a lot of people want to hear more about Personally, and we're really happy to be here.
Excellent, that's what we very much like to hear. Now, if people haven't encountered Personally, tell them what the company's all about.
So we are DSP. It means that we are exposed to a lot of auctions, ad auctions that we have the ability to bid on. We do it with a lot of machine learning involved in the process, from predicting who is going to click, who is going to install, and who eventually will make a purchase and make sure it will be a big one. So we have the ability to target the actual, what we call whales, that will actually span and will generate campaign with high ROAS. And that's basically the goal of Personally. We do it with a lot of data. Our models look at more like around 60 dimensions of data, including age and gender predictions that we have. We build everything in-house. The whole tech stack is built in-house, extremely scalable. We listen to around 3 million auctions per second, so extremely scalable. And working with the big guys here, and we're here to find more clients.
Excellent. Now, I'm asking everybody this, with the changes to the GDPR rule regulations a few years ago, and then Apple's ATT thing recently as well, you talk about data, and the amount of data and the types you can collect have been changed, restricted in some areas. How have you adapted to that? How has it impacted the way that you work?
Yeah, so since ATT started, basically iOS 14.5, so yeah, the signal is not as it used to be. So with less signals, you go with the things that they do have and try to capitalize on those. And those are like attributes like device model, which we still have, the context itself. So we utilize a lot of context features. We have models to understand the context. We read the app description, and then we understand how close it is to the app that we are actually promoting. And that's how we can use context in our models and compensate on the loss of signal, basically.
Right, so it's making the most of the data that you do have.
Yeah, so we capitalize on what we do have. Of course, it's also changed the prices in the market. So prices are actually lower these days because like we lost signal, all the other DSPs and players in the market lost also the signal, so they bid lower, right? So yeah, it's kind of a lot of opportunities there as well.
Where are you finding the most valuable UA is coming from these days? With everything changing as quickly as it does in the market, you can't just rely on one model for forever because you're constantly having to adapt. So at the minute, what you find is working for your clients?
So yeah, especially, so what they do these days is a mix of user acquisition and retargeting, which is like, that's the low-hanging fruit, right? So you know people paid in your app or used it. So to return them is much more, it's less expensive than acquiring new users. So that's something that we really recommend our clients to start doing, and we also do it in-house with platform that we have that can segment the audience based on characteristics like when was the last time they used the app, if they paid, how much they paid, and so on. So retargeting is essential these days, and it's really not adopted enough in gaming. So retargeting is practice that came from e-commerce, but it can be easily be used in gaming, and sadly it's not being used enough. So we're really working on educate our clients basically, and try to make them try retargeting because it's really easy to do. And essentially those campaigns drive the highest ROAS and very early in the campaign life cycle.
I was just speaking to someone who was talking about they worked with subscription and lifestyle apps and moving that towards gaming in a similar way, that it's a different kind of service, but a lot of the same techniques will work and apply to gaming,
right?
In terms of UA and the rest of it. So that's interesting to hear. Now, when it comes to, well, I don't like to say mistakes, but I'm going to say mistakes. When the clients are approaching you and saying, hey, look, we spent a whole load on UA and it's not worked for us. We've dropped 50 grand here or there. What are we doing wrong? What is the most common thing that you see clients maybe doing not quite right, and they come to you and you can say, we recommend you do this instead?
Yeah, so there are like few things that we see that really repeat themselves. So basically also like, if you don't see a trend when you start a campaign after, 10 or 20K, you have to ask the tough question and understand where is it going. And not just let it run because you trust someone so we need to ask questions all the time and understand what's going on behind the hood. It's really important to understand, because a lot of companies these days, they say, okay, we have machine learning, it's a black box, we can't really explain it, but in reality, it's explainable, right? So it's really important to ask the question before you get to the 50K. And another thing is due diligence, like due diligence of the companies you work with. Understand if it's a really DSP or if someone claimed to be a DSP. Check how many employees they have on LinkedIn, if they have like data science team and so on. So do your proper due diligence before you start a campaign and understand what's going on. And another thing that's really important for a success working with the DSP is like sharing the data and be transparent as possible with your KPIs and be clear with your KPIs, like be realistic with your KPI, because sometimes we get, we had a campaign 2 years ago on Facebook on a very small scale, and this is your KPI, but this is not realistic. So we need to get some average KPI that we can actually hit, and from that point, improve it.
So you are into sort of sharing this stuff with the users, avoid the black box thing. Right. Is there a danger at any point that you kind of overwhelm the end user with data they don't really know how to interpret? How do you share the relevant information and then give them the tools with which to make the informed decision?
So there are like very common standards on how to do it. So it's not hard thing to do. So yeah.
Oh, good to hear. So what about 2023? You guys are obviously looking forward. Are there any initiatives you're rolling out or things you're looking to do? Are you expanding? What's the plan?
So Google is about to launch their privacy sandbox, which is similar to ATT. So we're trying to find a way to how to manage that and work with context on Android as well. We also expand to other exciting territories in Southeast Asia. That's really, this is really a strategic move for the company. And yeah, that's it. Looking to continue to grow.